Right now, the very structure of American elections is facing a pivotal moment, one that could redefine the rules of the game for decades to come. At the heart of this moment is a case under review by the Supreme Court, drawing national attention and sparking heated debate among legal scholars, politicians, and voters alike. The case, National Republican Senatorial Committee versus Federal Election Commission, could fundamentally change how money flows in politics and how campaigns are funded at every level. This is about more than technical rules. It's a battle over party power, donor influence, and the meaning of free speech in our democracy. The outcome could shift the balance between transparency and influence, and between regulation and freedom. The outcome could reshape how candidates run, how parties support them, and who holds power in Washington. It could also affect how everyday Americans perceive the fairness of their elections. For decades, federal law has limited how much parties can spend in direct coordination with their candidates, aiming to prevent wealthy donors from buying influence. These rules were designed to keep elections fair, and to ensure that no single voice could drown out the rest. Now, those limits are being challenged as unconstitutional, setting the stage for a major legal showdown that could rewrite the playbook for campaign finance. Republicans argue these limits violate their First Amendment rights, claiming that political parties should be free to support their candidates without government interference. Meanwhile, Democrats warn that removing these restrictions would unleash a flood of dark money and open the door to potential corruption, making it harder to trace who is really funding campaigns. With the 2026 midterms approaching, the stakes are enormous. This decision will immediately impact campaign funding nationwide, changing how parties and candidates prepare for the next big election cycle. The future of American elections could look very different, depending on what the court decides. The ruling will not only shape the next election, but could also redefine the relationship between money, power, and democracy for generations to come. To understand this case, you need to know about coordinated party expenditures. These are a unique and crucial part of how money flows in American elections, and they play a major role in shaping the strategies of both political parties and candidates. Coordinated party expenditures refer to money a political party spends in direct collaboration with its candidate on things like joint advertising, campaign mailers, or get-out-the-vote efforts. Unlike independent spending, these activities are planned together, with the party and candidate working hand in hand to maximize their impact. Because the party and candidate coordinate so closely, the law treats this spending as a direct contribution to the campaign. That means there are strict legal limits on how much a party can spend in this way, to prevent wealthy donors from funneling millions through parties to benefit a single candidate. These limits are designed to keep the playing field fair and to stop any one campaign from gaining an overwhelming financial advantage. These rules, born from post-Watergate reforms, aim to curb corruption or even the appearance of corruption. After the scandals of the 1970s, lawmakers wanted to restore public trust by making sure that big money couldn't secretly buy influence in Washington. It's important to note that coordinated spending limits are different from independent expenditures. Independent expenditures, like those made by super PACs or outside groups, can be unlimited, but only if they don't coordinate with candidates or parties in any way. The Supreme Court Citizens United decision in 2010 allowed unlimited independent spending, opening the floodgates for super PACs and outside groups. But even after that landmark ruling, coordinated spending by parties and candidates has remained capped by law. The current system is a complex web. Candidates can only raise limited funds, parties have capped coordinated spending, and super PACs can spend unlimited amounts independently. Each piece is designed to balance influence and transparency, but it also creates a maze of rules for campaigns to navigate. The new case before the Supreme Court asks whether to erase the cap on party-candidate coordination, a move that could fundamentally reshape campaign finance law. If that wall falls, the entire financial ecosystem of American politics will change overnight. The flow of money, the strategies of campaigns, and the influence of donors could all be transformed in ways we can only begin to imagine. Campaigns, parties, and donors would all have to adapt to a new, uncertain reality, one where the boundaries between party and candidate spending might blur, and the future of political fundraising could look very different from what we know today. Republicans argue that limits on coordinated party spending violate the First Amendment. They see parties and candidates as partners, not separate entities, and say restricting their collaboration is a fundamental limit on political speech. They point to Citizens United. If super PACs and corporations can spend unlimited sums, why not political parties? Republicans claim these limits weaken parties and push influence to less accountable outside groups. They argue that party spending to help its own candidate isn't corruption, it's politics. The idea that a party is buying its own candidate's loyalty, they say, doesn't make sense. Lifting the caps, they argue, would strengthen parties, make campaigns more efficient, and restore constitutional order to campaign finance. For them, this case is about empowering parties and protecting free speech. Democrats and campaign finance reformers warn that removing coordinated spending limits would open the door to massive corruption. Without caps, parties could become conduits for megadonors to funnel unlimited money directly to favored candidates. The firewall between big money and politicians would vanish, creating dangerous obligations and potential quid pro quo arrangements. Democrats argue that parties aren't just campaign partners, they're institutions collecting money from donors with their own agendas. Justice Sotomayor echoed these concerns, warning that without limits, parties could become clearinghouses for wealthy interests. The fear elections would be won by the party with the richest donors, not the best ideas. Democrats say this isn't about silencing speech, it's about protecting democracy from being sold to the highest bidder. The stakes are nothing less than the integrity of American elections. If the Supreme Court strikes down coordinated spending limits, the change would be seismic. National party committees would gain unprecedented power, directly managing and funding campaigns. Megadonors could write enormous checks to parties, ensuring their money is spent on preferred candidates. Parties could access lower advertising rates, making their dollars go further and potentially sidelining super PACs. But this shift could obscure who's really funding campaigns, making it harder for the public to track influence. The risk candidates' priorities could align more with megadonors than with voters. Transparency and accountability could suffer, deepening public distrust. The decision could fundamentally alter the balance of power in American politics. During oral arguments, the Supreme Court justices revealed deep divisions. Liberal justices, led by Justice Sotomayor, voiced strong concerns about corruption and the risks of removing spending limits. Sotomayor warned that parties could become intermediaries for wealthy donors, undermining democracy. Conservative justices were more sympathetic to free speech arguments, noting that super PACs have already weakened party influence. Justice Kavanaugh suggested empowering parties could bring more transparency, but he also worried about corruption risks. The justices seemed to search for a middle ground, balancing free speech with the need to prevent pay-to-play politics. The outcome will hinge on how the conservative majority weighs these competing values. The court's decision could set a new precedent for the future of campaign finance. The real-world impact of this decision will be felt most acutely in battleground states like Nevada, where every dollar and every vote can tip the scales. In these high-stakes environments, the smallest financial edge can make a huge difference, and the outcome could ultimately decide the direction of the nation. If spending caps are lifted, political parties could suddenly pour tens of millions of dollars directly into key races, working hand in glove with candidates in ways that were previously restricted. This would open the floodgates for unprecedented coordination and spending, fundamentally changing how campaigns are run. This would supercharge campaign operations, fueling more ads, more fieldwork, and more sophisticated strategy on a scale never seen before in American politics. Campaigns could become more relentless, more targeted, and more influential than ever. Republicans, with their advantage in big donors and access to deep-pocketed supporters, could benefit the most, potentially overwhelming grassroots-funded candidates and shifting the balance of power even further toward those with the most resources. The financial dynamics of close races could be permanently altered, centralizing power in party hands and making it harder for outsider or independent voices to break through the noise. For voters, this means more ads on TV, more polished campaigns on social media, and a political environment even more saturated with money and messaging. The sheer volume of information could make it harder to separate fact from spin. The decision would continue the trend of deregulating campaign finance, a movement that began with Citizens United and has only accelerated in recent years. The Supreme Court must now decide: will this foster a more robust and open debate, or simply give the loudest voice to the wealthiest donors, drowning out ordinary Americans? The answer will shape the future of American democracy for years to come, influencing not just elections, but the very nature of political power and participation.